Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 122. It's actually the first day of spring. It is actually a cold first day of spring here in New York. March Madness just started today, so this is like the most exciting time for folks who love basketball and love college basketball. Got a few underdog teams from the area. Got Wagner and St. Peter's, who are small local teams here who made the tourney. St. John's got screwed this year, did not make the tourney, even though they should have. They should have been picked over Virginia, who got smacked down on Tuesday. But it's exciting. Going to catch some of the games, over the course of the next week plus, and all good things. So I'm excited to watch some games tonight, actually, after I record this podcast. So this podcast is actually going to be another health insurance rant. I got all fired up about a week ago. Maybe it was a little longer than a week ago. I posted on my Instagram story. There was a video on the New York Times website. It was an opinion video about health insurance companies and how they maintain their profitability by denying access to care for their patients. And they use a tool called prior authorizations to do this, where your doctor will either order you medication or a test or something that you may need, like a diagnostic test, et cetera. And your insurance company will say, well, we need to do a prior authorization before we will grant you that medication or the test, et cetera. It's a way of them stalling having to pay for care. And sometimes they do it to such an extent that the patient will die while they're waiting for their prior authorization. I want to go over all this stuff with you, but I do want to share a little bit of what this article said. I encourage you to watch the video. It's actually very enlightening, and we'll put a link to the video in the description of this post on YouTube, so you can click on it. But the title of the video is "What's My Life Worth? The Big Business of Denying Medical Care." And I'll just read you the first couple of paragraphs. They're very, very short paragraphs. And here we go. Should your insurance company be allowed to stop you from getting a treatment, even if your doctor says it's necessary? Doctors are often required to get insurance permission before providing medical care. This process is called prior authorization, and it can be used by profit-seeking insurance companies to create intentional barriers between patients and the health care they need. At best, it's just a minor bureaucratic headache. At worst, people have died. And it kind of goes on and on a little bit. And then, like I said, I encourage you to watch the video because it is very heartbreaking and very enlightening. And this is a practice that even in my own, dermatology practice that we see all the time. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it used to be if you prescribed the generic medications for your patients, those were generally covered, and the name brand fancy medications, sometimes those were covered, but sometimes they required a prior authorization. But over the course of the 15 years I've been in practice, actually 2 days from now marks the 15th anniversary of me opening my practice, March 23rd. But I've seen this get, just more and more pervasive. So now even generic medications that used to be a $5 or $10 copay for my patients. And I pretty much only prescribe generics anyways for this reason, because, there's great generic options available. They're, historically very affordable for my patients. But even now, those medications are becoming cost prohibitive and are requiring prior authorizations from these greedy, awful, evil, disgusting health insurance companies. And the reason why they do this, and it's so obvious, so all of us are putting money into the pot. I'm paying my premium for my family, like I mentioned before. It's nearly $4,000 a month for my insurance coverage for my family, and we have a $10,000, something like that. It's a very, very high deductible. So I'm out of pocket almost $50,000 before even my health insurance pays for anything. And most of my patients fall into the same boat. Their employers might pay for part of their insurance, or maybe some of them pay for all of their insurance. But most folks have to contribute a little bit into their insurance, only to find out that when they need to use it, there's a deductible. And of course, this is a way for health insurance companies to maximize their profits, right? We're all putting money into this pot, billions and billions and billions of collective dollars that we're all putting in. And the health insurance companies, they want to hold on to that money. They use that money to invest in other things and to, grow that pot. What they absolutely don't want to do is take money out of that pot to either pay for health care that you may need as a patient, or pay the doctor who's already rendered a service. Like I said, we see patients, we don't get paid at that time of service. We have to submit our claim to the health insurance company, and they'll play all these shenanigans and say, We need to review the notes for this visit, and they kind of delay payment because the longer they're sitting on that pot of money, the more profitable they become, and then eventually they may pay us, or they may say, "Oh, we're going to pay for some of this, but not for this," and then, or what's happening now, especially in this part of the year, where everyone has a deductible. The onus is on us to collect reimbursements for the care that we provide. So, if you have United Healthcare but you have a deductible, the insurance company basically will send the patient an explanation of benefits saying, well, these are the charges, this is the discount you get because you have United Healthcare, and this is how much you owe. But it's up to the doctor's office to send a bill to the patient. Frequently, it costs like a few bucks to send a bill to the patient. Frequently, we have to send 2-3 bills, sometimes more than that. And for some, routine office visits, the reimbursement's like $50, say, and you're spending $10, printing out statements and mailing them out, et cetera, to collect that $50. It's very burdensome on small offices, small independent practice. It's burdensome on all practices, but particularly small businesses like mine, where we're just sort of a one-man show. I have a couple of PAs that help me out, but it's a very small operation, and there's a very significant bureaucratic burden from all of this stuff. Prior authorizations just add to that. My staff spends hours and hours and hours on end trying to get prior authorizations for just very basic, inexpensive medications or procedures, et cetera, that we perform in the office. And again, the reason why health insurance companies do this is because they're trying to stall paying, or they're trying to not pay out of that pot that they're sitting on, because it cuts in to how profitable they are, and they're extraordinarily profitable. So I'll give you some examples. So in 2023, this is the ranking of how profitable health insurance companies are. So number one is United Health Group, the absolute armpit of health insurance companies. They're just a vile, disgusting institution, and they generated $22.4 billion, $22.4 billion of profit. And that's off the backs of you as a patient, me as a patient. We're all paying our premiums. And of course, it's off the backs of doctors, where they're not paying for procedures that they've already performed or services they've already rendered. I mean, absolutely disgusting. CVS, who owns Aetna Healthcare, comes in second at $8.3 billion. Elevance Healthcare, I'm not really even sure what they are. I think they're like an HMO somewhere, and they generated $6 billion of profit. Cigna generated $5.2 billion of profit. Centene generated $2.7 billion of profit, and Humana generated $2.5 billion of profit. Again, all of this profit is generated by the money that we're all collectively putting into the pot of whoever our health insurance provider is. And our health insurance companies, like I said, they want to sit on that pot of gold. They'll do anything that they can to either delay access to care, the delay you getting your CT scan or the MRI or the medication you may need, or delay paying your doctors who have taken care of you and are waiting to get reimbursed by their insurance company so that they could pay their staff and pay their rent and whatever other overhead is associated with running a medical practice. And this is a harsh thing to say, but this is how it works. I mean, all insurance companies, whether it's car insurance, home insurance, health insurance, they're all disgusting, awful institutions. I mean, for instance, one of my buddies, he got in a fender bender with one of his cars, and his car insurance company dropped him because, they didn't want to assume the risk of that happening again, right? So they're collecting, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of many, many, many years. But the second there's one or maybe two claims, to say, okay, we're not taking that risk anymore because, you're cutting into how profitable, how much money we're making. Home insurance, the same thing. I mentioned in a podcast, a few podcasts ago that, we had to file a claim because a tree fell down and destroyed my generator and fence and, a physical structure of my property. And, I've paid many tens of thousands of dollars in homeowners insurance, and the claim that I submitted was a small fraction of those collective payments I made over the course of many years. But they dropped me because they don't want to assume any further risk. They want to make sure. They were very profitable with all of the payments I made for my health insurance, including what they paid out for the claim, the two small claims that I had. But, they were not willing to, risk any more of their profitability. Health insurance companies, they can't do that. They can't drop you. There's some laws that are in place that, the health insurance companies cannot drop you or cannot, deny you coverage because of a pre-existing condition, et cetera. But what they do now is, they circumvent that by using this prior authorization system. So, and as long as you're healthy and as long as things are going great and you're paying your premium, and they're just getting rich off of the premium we're paying, and they're getting rich off of refusing payments to the doctors who care for you, they love you. The United Healthcares of the world, they absolutely adore you. They're just getting rich off the money that we're all putting in, as long as they don't have to pay out. So they love the young, healthy patients or the older, healthy patients that don't really use their health insurance. They just have health insurance. They're paying into the pot. United is getting their $22 billion in profit, and they're very, very happy. But as soon as you get sick and as soon as you need to use your health insurance, they can't drop you, right? They just can't do that because there's laws that say they can't drop you. But what they can do is they can do everything possible to make sure you die as fast as possible. Because as long as you're alive and you're using the health insurance that you've paid for, if you're using that insurance, they just want you to die as quickly as possible, because the longer you're alive and the longer you're accessing the healthcare that you've paid for, the more you cost them. United Healthcare, Cigna, CVS, Aetna, they all wish death upon you the second you get sick, or the second you need to get a medication from them, or the second you need to get that MRI because of the debilitating back pain that you have. They're all disgusting, vile institutions, and it's absolutely deplorable that the dollars that they're making, and it's an egregious amount of money. And listen, I'm as big of a capitalist as anybody, but it has to be done in a moral and ethical way. You can't get rich off of denying people health care that they need. You can't get rich off of refusing to pay doctors for care that they've given. There's nothing more pure than the doctor-patient relationship. The doctor wants to take care of the patient that comes to them in need, but health insurance companies, pharmacy benefit managers, sprawling hospital systems, private equity groups, they're all in the way of that. They're all trying to meddle with the purest relationship there is, the doctor-patient relationship, because they're trying to enrich themselves off of your back as the patient and off of my back as the doctor. And it's absolutely disgusting, and it's up to us, all of us, to express our tremendous concern off of these egregious practices. Without us speaking up about it, there's not going to be any change. It behooves all of us to be very vocal about how egregious and disgusting these practices by private health insurers like United, Cigna, CVS, Aetna, how just absolutely disgusting they are. So I hope that's food for thought for this weekend. I encourage all of you to watch the video. It's going to really fire you up, I'm sure. Just going to fire you up as much as I'm fired up by watching it. I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend. I enjoy watching some of these NCAA games and are just ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.